Everything looked perfect in Whitney Rose's world, until the truth started leaking through the cracks. Behind the glam, the confessionals, and the picture-perfect Salt Lake City lifestyle, something darker was unraveling. A storm was quietly building, and it was about to hit harder than anything the cameras had ever captured. Rumors were swirling, secrets were surfacing, and whispers hinted that Whitney wasn't just struggling with her business. She was fighting to keep her marriage alive. Before this story gets even deeper, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will shock even the most loyal RHLC fans. For months, whispers of divorce had been spreading like wildfire. Insiders claimed Justin wasn't just frustrated, he was allegedly preparing to blindside Whitney with divorce papers. The idea alone stunned fans, because for years they looked unbreakable. A team, a couple who stuck together despite chaos, cameras, and conflict. But insiders insisted that Justin was done. Done with the show, done with the pressure, done with the drama that had crushed his reputation. And when Whitney's business collapse allegedly drained their life savings, some claimed that was the final blow. When season 6 aired, viewers watched Whitney break down and confess that she had lost everything. Her business had crumbled. Her employees were gone. Her customers were disappointed. Her inventory vanished into a company restructuring she no longer had control over. She admitted, "I failed everyone, and now we have nothing." Those words hit hard. But what hit harder were the insider claims that Justin was already pulling away, already having quiet conversations, already seeing a life separate from all of this. A source said Whitney was terrified. She felt the distance, the sudden coldness, the late-night conversations that ended when she walked into the room, the tension floating between them like a shadow neither could ignore. And then came the most explosive claim. Justin had allegedly started speaking with divorce lawyers, not discussing a separation, not going to counseling. Lawyers. But then, the story twisted. Because another insider pushed back, saying the divorce rumors were nothing but noise, that Justin wasn't leaving, that they were not getting divorced, that the claims were just rumors. So which version is real? Which source is telling the truth? And which one is hiding something? The truth got even messier when Whitney confronted Justin about a massive financial transfer to one of their vendors, money she said she knew nothing about. That moment exposed something deeper than finances. It showed a break in communication, trust, and control. Whitney admitted she felt blindsided, hurt, confused. And for the first time, she exposed the real cracks behind the business failure. She confessed that merging Wild Rose Beauty into a new entity was a mistake she regretted with everything in her. She was battling to get out of it, fighting to reclaim her brand, fighting to protect her identity, fighting to get back the name she built from scratch. And she revealed she only agreed to that merger because Justin and the team around them convinced her it was the only way forward. She trusted them. And now she was paying the price. "You flashed numbers in front of me," she said. "You convinced me this was the only way, and I trusted you. And now I'm angry at myself." That anger, that regret, that silent resentment, it all started bleeding into their marriage. She tried not to blame him for the fallout. She tried to separate the business decisions from their relationship. But every time she looked at the mess around them, she saw his fingerprints on it. Justin, for his part, said he felt her resentment. He admitted he made mistakes. He admitted he thought his way would help them work together. He said he always believed in her business, but thought that the direction he pushed them into would help them grow. But belief doesn't erase consequences. Support doesn't erase financial damage. Teamwork doesn't erase the pressure that nearly broke them. And behind the scenes, fans were asking the question no one wanted to say out loud. Did the business break the marriage? Or did the marriage break the business? Because somewhere between their joint decisions, their lost savings, their restructured company, and the emotional fallout, they stopped being partners in the same way they once were. The love was still there, but the weight was heavier. The trust was shakier. The foundation was cracked. And yet, the conflicting reports kept the entire situation shrouded in mystery. One insider warning the marriage was ending, another insisting everything was fine. Public smiles, private tension, emotional confessionals, silent glances that felt colder than words. Viewers watched Whitney struggle to separate her emotions, and Justin struggled to understand the depth of her frustration. Their conversations grew heavier, their moments grew fewer, and the possibility of a split hovered over every scene. But behind those scenes, there were even more twists. Decisions made long before the cameras arrived, tension that started before Wild Rose Beauty collapsed, pressure that had been building for years, and choices that neither of them expected to resurface now at the worst possible moment. As the tension thickened, fans began noticing something that had been there for years. Subtle signs that the cracks in Whitney and Justin's relationship weren't new at all. The glossy reality TV image had hidden the stress long enough, but the truth was that their marriage had been absorbing pressure long before Wild Rose Beauty collapsed. Justin had been struggling with the spotlight since the earliest seasons. The jokes, the rumors, the commentary online, the constant scrutiny. He never looked fully comfortable with it. And while Whitney thrived under the lights, Justin looked like someone who stayed because he felt he had to, not because he wanted to. He tolerated the cameras. He tolerated the drama. He tolerated the perception shift, but every season seemed to take something from him, piece by piece. Insiders whispered that he hated how the show shaped his public image. Every storyline involving him became a weight he couldn't control. And then the business fallout arrived, and for him, it wasn't just financial, it was a public humiliation. According to those close to the situation, this was when the dynamic between them truly shifted. Whitney was hustling, fighting, building. Justin was retreating, withdrawing, feeling the blow of every negative headline. The truth is, the Wild Rose collapse didn't just drain money. It drained trust. It drained optimism. It drained the spark they once had. Whitney revealed in private moments that the financial disaster initially brought them closer together. They were both scared, vulnerable, overwhelmed, and they leaned on each other. But once the dust settled, the questions began piling up. Why did she trust certain people? Why did he encourage that merger? Why didn't they communicate better? Why did they go all in without a safety net? Every question led to another, and every answer reminded them of mistakes neither could undo. She said she felt like she was just there in the marriage. Present physically, absent emotionally. She showed up, but she wasn't connected, and Justin felt the shift instantly. He told her he could feel her resentment. He could feel her pulling away. He knew she blamed him, even when she didn't say it. But he also admitted something he never had before, that he made a mistake. He had pushed her toward a direction he thought was smart. He believed he was helping her succeed. He believed the business strategy would elevate them both. But the collapse proved otherwise, and now they were left piecing together the remains of a dream that once bound them together. Their marriage became a battlefield of unspoken words, hidden regret, and quiet disagreements. Small arguments escalated, old wounds reopened, and their emotional distance became visible even through the camera lens. What made the situation even more complicated was the timing. Just as they were facing the worst financial disaster of their lives, the show was doubling down on their storyline. Producers wanted raw emotion, authentic conflict, real reactions. But what they got was a couple trying to survive something much deeper than on-screen drama. Every conversation that needed privacy ended up happening with bright lights and microphones inches away. The pressure didn't just come from money or marriage. It came from millions of viewers watching their every move. Whitney was balancing her shame over the business with her fear of losing Justin. Justin was balancing his frustration with his fear of looking like the villain. And together, they were trying to hold on to something that kept slipping out of their hands no matter how tightly they gripped it. Privately, Whitney confided that she sometimes felt like she was drowning. Not in debt, not in responsibility, but in guilt. Guilt that she pushed too hard. Guilt that she trusted the wrong people. Guilt that she disappointed her partner. Meanwhile, Justin felt like he was disappearing in the shadow of her public identity. The stronger Whitney became on camera, the smaller he felt behind the scenes. It wasn't intentional, but it was real. And then came the most emotional part of their struggle, the realization that their business decisions had become symbolic of their relationship. The merger represented trust. The collapse represented betrayal. The financial fallout represented emotional rupture. And the fight to reclaim Wild Rose beauty represented Whitney's desperate attempt to reclaim herself. When she said she was fighting to get her name back, she wasn't just talking about the brand. She was talking about her confidence, her independence, her identity. She was fighting to feel like herself again. And as she fought harder, Justin felt further and further away. Their marriage was no longer just a relationship. It was a negotiation, a compromise, a balancing act between love and survival. And as the rumors of divorce grew louder, the couple stood silently in the middle of a storm neither could escape. One insider saying Justin was ready to leave, another saying everything was fine. And somewhere between those two extremes lay the truth. Complicated, painful, and still unfolding. As the world kept guessing, Whitney and Justin found themselves in a strange silence, a space where every conversation carried weight and every look held a question no one wanted to ask. The marriage wasn't broken, but it wasn't whole either. It was suspended in this tense, fragile place where one wrong move could shatter what was left. They were still together, still sharing a home, still appearing as a united front. But internally, they were drifting like two people trying to navigate a storm in different directions. The more Whitney tried to rebuild her business identity, the more Justin struggled with how the world saw him. He felt like the show had reduced him to a storyline he didn't control. The uncomfortable husband, the supportive but frustrated spouse, the man in the middle of a financial mess. Meanwhile, Whitney faced the opposite problem. She felt exposed, raw, vulnerable. Every confession she made about failing her customers and her family felt like opening a wound for the whole world to watch. In private moments, Whitney admitted she felt ashamed. She kept replaying decisions in her mind, wondering how everything went so wrong, how her dream became a nightmare, how her passion project turned into the very thing that pushed her marriage into dangerous territory. And deep down, she wondered if Justin secretly blamed her too, even if he never said it out loud. On the other side, Justin wrestled with fears he didn't share publicly. He wondered if Whitney blamed him for influencing her business decisions. He wondered if the show and the spotlight changed her more than either of them realized. He wondered if they had grown apart without noticing. He wondered if the marriage he fought to protect was now slipping away quietly. The bank transfer incident was a turning point. It wasn't just about money, it was about communication. Whitney felt blindsided. Justin felt misunderstood. And that moment became symbolic of everything wrong between them. One unexpected financial move turned into a metaphor for the emotional withdrawal they both felt but couldn't articulate. Whitney said the merger took away her identity, but Justin felt like the show took away his. Whitney felt like the business fallout ruined her confidence, but Justin felt like it ruined their foundation. And every time they tried to talk through it, the conversations ended in confusion, frustration, or quiet distance. And then came the whisperings from insiders, each one adding a new layer of tension. One source claiming Justin was ready to file for divorce, another insisting it was all fabricated drama. Whitney didn't know who to believe anymore, and Justin didn't know how to reassure her when he was barely holding himself together. Behind the scenes, both of them were fighting battles the public couldn't see. Whitney was fighting embarrassment, failure, and financial chaos. Justin was fighting public perception, marital strain, and pressure he never asked for. And somewhere in between, they were both fighting to stay connected. But then something unexpected happened. Something that changed the tone of their relationship in a way neither anticipated. It wasn't a dramatic argument or a breakdown. It was a quiet moment during filming when Whitney admitted that she couldn't separate the business from the marriage anymore. She couldn't pretend the resentment didn't exist. She couldn't pretend the pain wasn't real. Hearing her say that forced Justin to confront the reality he'd been avoiding. He acknowledged his mistakes. He acknowledged the pressure he put on her. He acknowledged that his version of support wasn't always what she needed. And that simple admission, raw, emotional, honest, shifted something. Because it was the first time Justin allowed himself to be vulnerable instead of defensive. The first time he stopped trying to fix the mess and simply listened to the pain behind it. And it was the first time Whitney realized he wasn't just frustrated. He was scared too. Scared of losing her. Scared of losing them. Even then, the divorce rumors didn't disappear. If anything, they got louder. More articles, more speculation, more whispers that Justin had been ready to leave and that Whitney knew it. But the reality was far more complicated than a headline. Their marriage wasn't falling apart. It was being tested at a level most couples never experience. Tested by money, tested by fame, tested by fear, tested by their own decisions. And as the pressure mounted, another complication entered the picture. One that neither of them expected, and one that changed the trajectory of their relationship even more. A revelation about the business that wasn't just financial, but personal. That unexpected twist began with a quiet conversation producers almost didn't catch. A moment when Whitney revealed that something about the Wild Rose Beauty merger never sat right with her. She didn't just lose ownership, she lost access, control, and clarity. Documents she thought she understood ended up meaning something different. Agreements she believed protected her ended up trapping her. And the more she dug into it, the more she realized she wasn't just fighting to reclaim her brand. She was fighting to understand how she lost it in the first place. The emotional punch wasn't in the financial loss, it was in the sense of betrayal. Not by Justin, but by people in the business world who she believed had her best interest at heart. But Justin's involvement, his support of the merger, his encouragement of certain decisions made it impossible for Whitney to untangle the business damage from the emotional damage. Every time she tried to separate the two, they merged back together like water and ink. And then, in a moment she didn't expect to cry on camera, she admitted something she'd been avoiding. I trusted the people who told me this was the only path. I trusted them because you believed in them. And now I don't know how much of that decision was mine, and how much was me wanting to believe in you. That sentence cut deeper than either of them anticipated. Justin went still. The room went quiet, and Whitney felt her voice shake as she realized she had accidentally said the one thing she promised herself she'd never say out loud. She didn't resent Justin for the failure. She resented herself for wanting his approval so badly that she ignored her own instincts. That moment shifted the energy between them. Justin wasn't angry. He wasn't defensive. Instead, he looked heartbroken. Because for the first time, he understood that the business fallout wasn't just about money. It wasn't about branding or inventory or the show. It was about something much deeper. Whitney felt like she lost herself. And because she tied her decisions to his confidence in her, she couldn't untangle that loss from their marriage. It was then that Justin finally confessed something he had been carrying quietly. Something that explained why he looked more defeated than angry. He revealed that he had spent months feeling like he was the anchor holding their marriage underwater. Not because he wanted to be, but because every decision he made with good intentions ended in regret. Every time he tried to help, it made things worse. Every financial choice he supported became another bruise. He felt like the villain in her story, even though he never meant to be. He admitted he had spoken to lawyers, but not to file for divorce, as one insider claimed. He had wanted legal advice because he was terrified the business fallout would destroy them financially. He didn't plan to blindside her. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to protect them from losing more. But once that rumor spread, Whitney didn't know what to believe. And even though Justin denied the divorce claims, the doubt lingered in the air like fog they couldn't escape. Still, that moment of honesty created a shift. It wasn't a fix. It wasn't a resolution. But it was real. And that authenticity, painful, messy, uncomfortable, is what fans rarely see behind reality TV. As the season continued filming, the couple found themselves walking through a maze of emotions. Some days they were closer than they had been in months. Other days they couldn't even look at each other without tension rising. A single sentence could bring them peace or panic. A single decision could feel like progress or betrayal. Their marriage became a pendulum swinging unpredictably between healing and hurting.